Oftentimes in life, when we think everything is going according to plan, and something happens, something unexpected, something unpredicted, it throws us off entirely. And this seems to happen almost on a regular basis, that there is so much uncertainties that just seem to define our experience of living. And really amidst all this chaos, we often are left to wonder, with so much uncertainty, how do we achieve a sense of satisfaction or fulfillment in life when everything is just in a constant state of flux? Well, according to 12 Rules for Life, written by Dr. Jordan Peterson, he is this former professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. I think he taught at Harvard as well, and a clinical psychologist. He draws on his expertise in psychology, science, philosophy, ethics, and also spirituality to really tell us that chaos is very much the nature of life. When you look at the physical laws of the universe, entropy is a big part of it. The idea that order breaks into disorder, which gives seeds to establishment order, really the cycle, this constant state of flux and this permutation. Like chaos is very much the nature of life. However, according to him, there's also an antidote, a framework of 12 rules, at least for human experience, that if we were really to adopt these, we would be able to really balance our living amidst all this chaos. Very insightful. He is really a very comprehensive writer that gives amazing arguments to the points that he's making. Now, I want to talk about the rules that really left a strong impression on me from reading this book. I won't cover 12 of the rules, but I'll tell you about 4 of them that I thought were just amazing and really mind-blowing. The first one is this rule that he mentions, that you have to be truthful in life, that you shouldn't lie. Dishonesty and lies. Oftentimes, we think we are the beneficiary of a lie. We tell a lie to deceive people to obtain certain consequence that we want. Perhaps it is to get a thing we want or to avoid maybe an awkward situation or undesirable outcome. However, the problem with lying is not that we would get caught. Some of us could be amazing liars. We could come up with these really elaborate deceits, and some people are master manipulators. But the danger with lies really lies with the fact that we actually would be influenced by our own lies, that when we fabricate these lies, the ultimate person that we're deluding is ourselves, that we are trying to escape an undesirable reality. We come up with these lies, that although we may escape it, the fact is it is all delusion ultimately to us. And this delusion that is perpetuated actually brings us further away from reality, which invites even greater chaos into our lives. That we ourselves, whether subconsciously or consciously, believe in these delusions, that we're actually making our lives much more chaotic rather than facing the truth and really the truth of reality. To be able to really adhere to reality and to really experience reality in an objective and clear way is really an antidote to chaos. But by deluding people, ultimately deluding ourselves, we are only inviting more and more chaos into our lives. And I think this is so brilliant because we never really think about that. To us, we think lying is really this one-way street where we are just getting exactly what we want, but we don't realize that it is actually a two-way street where we are getting influenced and it is ultimately deluding us. And some of these master liars in life, especially the ones that ultimately even become criminal, you see how deluded they are, and almost the point that they are sociopathic. The second rule that was very impressionable on me was this rule where he mentions that we really have to compare ourselves to ourselves. Oftentimes in life, we feel lost. We don't really know where we're at in terms of our own development and our progression through life. It is a very natural instinct for us to look for a benchmark, to really assess where we are in the midst of the sea of chaos. And it's very easy for us to look at others as a point of comparison. Of course, technology makes it much easier because with social media and the seeming transparency of everything, it's very easy for us to look at others. And when we see that others are doing worse than us, or in other words, we're doing better, our brains actually release these hormones, serotonin, that makes us feel very happy, that we're getting somewhere in life. But oftentimes it is the case that we will find, as we search through social media and comparing with others, that there'll always be people who are better than us. For example, when you think about career, you might think that you are doing great in your career, then you realize someone's making more money than you, or they're further ahead in some corporate structure or some career path. Or let's say if it's a fitness goal, you might think you're doing really well with your fitness. This year, this is a new thing you've done, and then you look, someone's so much more fit than you, and you start to question how well you're even doing. When we compare to others, it really gives an unrealistic point of reference because there will always be people who are much better. And secondly, what we see is also really this external image that is presented to us usually by these people in a deliberate way, that we don't get an accurate assessment. Truly, if we are to find direction of our own progression and really to rid ourselves from the chaos of where we're at, we have to compare ourselves today to where we were yesterday, to see how far we've come, whether we've actually come far or not come far enough. By comparing ourselves to ourselves, we really get an accurate sense of progression. If we're not doing enough, we can discipline ourselves. If we're doing actually better, then we can really encourage ourselves and promote a healthy sense of growth rather than an unrealistic sense of comparison with others where we don't even get an accurate picture. Ultimately, you know yourself really well, and by comparing to yourself, you get a realistic idea of where you're at. And this really is one of the keys to find a sense of your progression amidst the chaos that we experience as we journey through life. The third rule that was very significant for me is really this idea that we really ought to help ourselves as if we're helping others. It is very interesting. A lot of us, we feel like we're lost, that we don't really have a sense of direction. Oftentimes when we encounter certain issues, we don't know what to do. Yet, when it comes to our friends and people will come to us with their life problems, all of a sudden we've gained these sage-like clarity and sense of reasoning where we give them these amazing advice about what they should do because we understand their situation so well in our objective observation. Yet when it comes to us, we are completely lost. And the reason why is when it comes to other people, we are really looking at an entire situation from the stance of an objective observer. And that really gives us the clarity to see what's going on with these issues and what sort of solutions should be proposed. Furthermore, we can hold them accountable. But when it comes to us, we often are so engrossed in our own ego, in our own sentiments, perhaps even a subconscious sense of punishment that we aren't able to see really with great clarity the issues that we find ourselves immersed in, where we take it too personal. And so we really have to treat ourselves almost as another person and step back and think, how can we actually advise such a person? What would be the right thing to do? A brilliant thing about doing this and using this point of perspective is also that treating yourself as another person that you're responsible for also means that you hold this person accountable, regardless of any sort of sentiments. So even if it is a solution that is uncomfortable, you know objectively that is a solution that you need, that's the thing you need done. And this is really what will give you a greater sense of direction when it comes to the issues and challenges in your life. It is being able to see the problems for what they are and being able to propose the solutions that are suitable and appropriate regardless of how this person feels. And this person is you, but you should see yourself as this other person that you're responsible for. This is a very important advice because I feel today we're getting more and more egocentric as we start to perpetuate ourselves with greater self-importance with social media. This is something that needs to be done. You need to hold yourself accountable to yourself and really step back and look at the whole picture that really is in front of you, rather than be immersed in the scene and totally lost with it and really flowing along with the chaos of what's happening. The final and fourth rule that I'd like to talk about tonight is really the sense that in order to gain fulfillment in the chaos of life, we have to stop chasing the temporary happiness that comes from pleasure, but rather chase for the meaning that comes from sacrifice. Now, what Dr. Peterson is really talking about here is this idea that oftentimes in life, we are just trying to chase for instant gratification. So, for example, we might want to eat junk food, and eating a junk food makes us happy, right? It tastes amazing. But then if we just lose ourselves in this chase of instant gratification, our lives is chaotic. We have no control, and furthermore invites greater chaos, as usually instant gratification hedonism leads to all sorts of uncontrollable developments in our lives. For example, if you eat too much junk food with absolutely no control, you start developing health problems, which is really something that will affect you further down the line. So rather than lose yourself in this hedonistic treadmill and really lose your mind in doing that, you really have to learn to sacrifice and step back and defer your gratification through the meaning that you're trying to carve. So for example, in the context of food, deciding that you want to wake up early to run and stop eating certain things, or maybe dedicating an hour every day to work out. These are things that often you will not like. They are sacrifices, but they present the meaning of actually having a more healthy life, where you have more control of your life. And really through these sacrifices, this meaning that you're able to find from them, you start to gain a reign over really all the developments that happen in your life, and really you start to have more control with the direction of where your life is heading. And of course, outside the context of food, we can think about preparation of really developing yourself so you can have a better career and achieve much more in life. Constantly you'll see that as compared to hedonism, actually chasing sacrifice gives you a more meaningful life that leads to greater fulfillment, because the meaning also comes from the sort of control that you gain from the life itself. And so it is really a pertinent point, especially when the culture today is so focused on instant gratification. We have such short attention spans. But the idea here really is that we have to realize that not all things should be instant, and sometimes we have to defer our gratification and instead choose to sacrifice these things, at least in the short term, so that we can enjoy something in the long term. This idea that you could, of course, go easy now and have a difficult life, or you can go difficultly now and then eventually have an easy life. The idea is that we have to learn how to endure these sacrifices and also gain meaning from them. Ultimately, when you combine all the rules I've just mentioned, the common theme that comes from Dr. Peterson's book, and really for all the 8 other rules, if you were to read this book, is really this idea that chaos is really unavoidable in life. Although certain actions we do actually invite more chaos into our lives, but really to gain control of our life and gain this balance and rise above this chaos, we have to be disciplined and engage in disciplined living. We have to really step back and step up and really build a framework, whether it is his 12 rules or any other rules that we'll come up with, that really allows us to navigate our life by having more discipline, which allows us to really control ourselves against chaotic developments that happen. So that although we can't prevent these unpredictable things that happen, at least we can control our experience of them and also how we come to resolve them. And I think that is the brilliant thing about this book.